The wedding dress cost more than my car. I'd saved for 3 years to buy it, working overtime, skipping vacations, eating ramen for dinner more nights than I could count. It was ivory silk with hand-beaded detail, the only extravagant thing I'd allowed myself for the wedding. Now it felt like a costume for a play where I'd been written out of the script. "We ran out of seats," my mother said with a shrug that barely moved the diamonds at her throat. She stood at the entrance to the reception hall, clipboard in hand, looking past me like I was a wedding crasher instead of the bride. I could see inside. 200 people, maybe more. Every chair filled. The head table where I should have been sitting, where my new husband Adam was already seated, had my sister Penelope in my spot, laughing at something the best man said. "Family friends are more important than the bride," my mother continued, checking something off her list. "The Weatherbys flew in from Switzerland. The Harrisons brought their whole family. You understand." I stood there in my wedding dress, holding my bouquet, veil still pinned to my hair, trying to process what was happening. "You didn't save me a seat at my own wedding." "Don't be dramatic, Sophia," she sighed. "You can eat in the bridal suite." I had them send up a plate, to the bridal suite, away from my own reception. "Judge Morrison is here," she said, as if that explained everything. "Senator Blake and his wife. The entire country club board. These connections matter more than—" She waved her hand at me. "Whatever this tantrum is about." Through the doorway, I saw Adam laughing, champagne glass raised. He hadn't even noticed I wasn't there. My sister was wearing a white dress. Not ivory, not cream, white, and sitting in the bride's chair like she belonged there. "Where's Dad?" I asked, networking. "The Pemberton merger won't close itself." She finally looked directly at me. "Honestly, Sophia, you knew this wedding was important for the family's business connections. Stop being selfish. I'd been called that my whole life. Selfish for wanting my parents at my college graduation. They were at Penelope's tennis tournament. Selfish for asking them to my art show opening. It conflicted with their vineyard tour. Selfish for expecting them to treat my wedding like it was about me." "You're right," I said quietly. My mother looked surprised. "Good. Now go upstairs and I am being selfish." I set down my bouquet on the gift table. "For the first time in my life, I'm going to be exactly as selfish as you've always said I was." I walked out, not to the bridal suite, out of the venue entirely. Behind me, I heard my mother call out, annoyed but not worried. She probably thought I was having a moment, that I'd be back. That I'd swallow this humiliation like I'd swallowed every other one. My phone was in the bridal suite, but I didn't need it. I knew exactly where I was going. The venue manager's office was in a separate building, a small cottage covered in ivy. Marcus, the manager, was a kind man in his 60s who'd tried to warn me months ago. "Your mother's guest list keeps growing," he'd said carefully. "But she hasn't increased the catering order or the seating." I'd brushed it off. Surely she wouldn't actually overbook my own wedding. Marcus looked up when I walked in, his face shifting from professional warmth to concern. "Mrs. Chen, shouldn't you be—" "Grant," I said, using my married name for the first and last time. "And no, I shouldn't be anywhere near that reception." "What happened?" "There's no seat for me. My mother invited so many people that there's literally no chair for the bride." His face went pale. "That's not possible." I reviewed the seating chart. "Check again." He pulled up the file on his computer, scrolling through the names. I watched his expression change as he searched. You're not on here, but Penelope is, at the head table. In a white dress." Marcus sat back, horrified. "Mrs. Grant, I am so sorry. This is not your fault." I pulled the pins from my veil, setting it on his desk. "But I need you to do something for me. Anything. Cancel the reception. Right now." He blinked. "Cancel everything. The dinner, the dancing, the bar. Send everyone home. But the contract is in my name," I said. My mother might have planned everything, but I'm the one who signed the papers. "I'm the bride. And I'm canceling my reception." Marcus hesitated. "The payment is due immediately, I know. The contract states that cancellation during the event means full payment is required at once." I smiled for the first time all day. "Bill it to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Pearson. My parents. The full amount? All $87,000 of it. Cash or certified check only. No credit cards, as per the terms my mother insisted on to get a discount." Marcus's eyes widened. $87,000? She upgraded everything without telling me. The premium bar, the lobster option, the champagne fountain, the string quartet, all for her important guests who were more deserving of seats than me. He stood slowly. This will cause quite a scene. Good. 20 minutes later, I stood at the edge of the parking lot, still in my wedding dress, but feeling lighter without the veil. I'd called my best friend Janine from Marcus's phone. She was already on her way with her car and a change of clothes. From where I stood, I could hear the commotion beginning inside. Marcus's voice over the intercom, professionally calm but firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that the bride has canceled the reception. The event is concluded. Please gather your belongings and exit the venue within the next 30 minutes. Mr. and Mrs. Pearson, please see me immediately regarding the outstanding balance of $87,000, which is due before anyone may leave the premises. The eruption of voices was immediate. Shouting, confusion, anger. I could imagine my mother's face, her perfect composure cracking as 200 guests turned to stare at her. My phone was still in the bridal suite, so I couldn't see the frantic calls and texts that were undoubtedly flooding in. But I could see people starting to stream out of the venue, men in tuxedos and women in cocktail dresses, all with the bewildered expressions of people whose free meal had just evaporated. Adam appeared in the doorway, looking around frantically. Even from across the parking lot, I could see the panic on his face. Not concern for me, I noticed. Panic about the scene, the embarrassment, the explaining he'd have to do. A security guard, Marcus was thorough, stood at the exit, checking that the Pearson payment had been settled before allowing the vendors to leave with their equipment. The caterers were already loading their trucks, taking all that expensive food with them. Janine's car pulled up and I got in, wedding dress and all. Your place? She asked. First, the bank, I said. I need to empty my accounts before my parents try to access them. They have access to your accounts? Joint from when I was 16. Never changed it. They insisted it was for emergencies. This feels like an emergency, Janine agreed. Pulling out of the parking lot. As we drove away, I saw my sister running out in her white dress, mascara streaming down her face. My father emerged next, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling his lawyer. My mother stood in the doorway, still holding her clipboard, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, at the bank. I withdrew everything, my savings, my checking, even the small inheritance from my grandmother that my parents didn't know I knew about. The teller, noting my wedding dress, didn't ask questions. Back at Janine's apartment, I finally changed out of the dress and checked my phone. 147 missed calls, 89 texts, the most recent from Adam. This is annulment territory, Sophia. You've humiliated me, I texted back. Perfect. Have your lawyer send the papers to Janine's address. My mother's texts were threats disguised as concern. You've ruined the family reputation. No one will ever speak to us again. The Weatherbys are appalled. You're disinherited, I responded to that one. Can't inherit dead anyway, because that's what they'd hidden from everyone, including me until I'd done some digging. The family money was gone. Bad investments, poor management, living beyond their means for years. The only reason they'd pushed so hard for me to marry Adam was his trust fund. The wedding was supposed to seal the deal, introduce them to his wealthy circle, open doors to save their sinking ship. Instead, they now owed $87,000 they didn't have to a venue that would definitely sue for payment. The next morning, a knock at Janine's door revealed a process server with annulment papers. I signed them immediately. 24 hours married? It had to be some kind of record, but there was something else in the envelope. A check for $87,000 made out to me. A note was attached in Adam's pristine handwriting. Your parents came begging. This is to pay them back for the reception. Consider it a parting gift. I'd rather pay than have my family name associated with that disaster. We're telling everyone you had a psychiatric break. I looked at the check, then at Janine. You're not going to give it to them, she said. No, I agreed. I'm going to do something much worse. Worse? I'm going to use it to throw myself a proper wedding reception. One where the bride actually gets a seat. 6 months later, I stood in the same wedding dress, cleaned and restored, at a different venue. 50 guests, all people who actually cared about me. My parents weren't invited. Neither was Penelope or Adam or any of the important people who'd taken my seat. But there was Jake, the paramedic who'd responded when I'd had a panic attack 2 months after the disaster. He'd held my hand in the ambulance, talked me through the breathing exercises, and then asked if I wanted to get coffee when his shift ended. You sure about this? He asked, standing beside me as the photographer, Janine's girlfriend, snapped pictures. About marrying you? Absolutely. I straightened his tie. About using my disaster wedding fund to throw a party celebrating our engagement? Even more so, the reception was perfect. Casual, warm, filled with laughter. I sat at the head table, in the actual bride's seat, even though this was just an engagement party. Everyone had a chair, everyone had food, everyone was wanted. During the toasts, Janine stood up. 6 months ago, Sophia's mother said family friends were more important than the bride. Today, Sophia's learned the truth. Real friends are family. And family always saves you a seat. We raised our glasses, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Valued. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Saw the social media posts. How dare you wear that dress again? I showed it to Jake. He took my phone, typed something, and hit send before showing me. She paid for it herself. She can wear it whenever she wants. Stop contacting her. Then he blocked her number. I love you, I said. I love you too, he replied. And I promise, at our wedding, you'll not only have a seat, you'll have the entire table if you want it. Looking around at my real friends, my chosen family, my future husband who saw me as the priority instead of an afterthought, I realized something. My mother had been right about one thing. I had been selfish that day, selfish enough to finally choose myself. And it was the best decision I'd ever made.